Many gardeners like to collect flowers from their garden to bring indoors, but they don't like to remove too many blooms from ornamental beds. One solution for this dilemma is to plant a garden specifically for cutting. That way you can remove flowers without detracting from your ornamental beds. You can also select plants that are best for cutting. Now, we've planted our cut garden more like an ornamental border. And many gardeners prefer to grow their cut flowers in rows, more the way you would plant vegetables, just to make it easier to access the plants for cutting. But a few stepping stones can also suffice for that. However you design it, a sunny location is the best place for a cut flower garden because many of the plants that you want to grow require full sun. There are many different annuals and perennials that do well as cut flowers. Usually we think of some of the showier annuals, but there are some perennials as well. And to help you get an idea of some good plants for cutting, a good resource for that is the fact sheet HLA 6410, which is called Perennials for specific locations, and there's a list of some perennials that are good for cutting. And there's also a similar fact sheet for annuals, which is HLA 6425. Well, let's take a look at some of the plants that we have in our garden that are good for cutting and what's blooming at this time of the year. The first one I wanted to look at is Gomphren, and these are small clover-like sort of globe-shaped flowers, and they tend to be in really bright colors. This red cultivar is called Strawberry Fields. We also have another purple cultivar growing, and this one is very vibrant. And these add a lot of, just a punch of color to an arrangement. And there's also many salvias that do well for cutting, both annuals as well as perennials. And this one is blue anise sage, or salvia black and blue. And the fun thing about sages and salvias in your arrangements is they have more of a floral spike, and so they add a little bit of a different architecture to your arrangement. I really enjoy straw flowers. This is called Bikini Blend. It's a mix of different colors, and straw flowers are sort of daisy-like in appearance, and they're very papery. You could hear that the petals are actually fairly stiff, and these hold up very well in the vase and make a wonderful cut flower. Another plant that we don't often think of growing for cutting is baby's breath, but we use baby's breath quite a lot in arrangements as a filler to mix in. Another really fun cut flower is the coxcombs, celosia. They have these wavy, sort of brain-like looking flowers. This is really a classic cut flower. It also dries very well, so does the Gomphren. But this is beautiful flower, and they come in these very vibrant colors, and they make wonderful cut flowers and nice additions to different arrangements. Another cut flower classic that we have growing are the zinnias, and this is the Dreamland mix. So we have flowers in all different colors, and they tend to have a nice contrasting center to them. They have the colorful petals and a different color in the center to add a little bit of contrast. Now, especially with our annuals, flowering plants require a lot of energy to make those blooms and to continue blooming throughout the season. And one way to keep them blooming is to cut off spent flowers, to deadhead them, especially if you're not going to be cutting them to be brought inside. That'll keep the plants producing new flowers. And they also need a little bit extra nutrition. So you want to make sure to fertilize them regularly throughout the season. Or when you're planting your cut flower bed, go ahead and mix in a slow release fertilizer into the soil. Now, when it comes to cutting cut flowers, it's best to cut them early in the morning when the temperatures are cooler and the plants have more stored energy. Use a nice sharp knife or pruners, and you want to cut them as low as possible so that you have a nice long stem, and maybe select the ones that are tallest first. You put them immediately into lukewarm water, and you could clean those up later when you get into the house. When you bring your cut flowers indoors, these additional tips will help them to keep them looking their freshest. First, you want to remove excess foliage, especially if that foliage is going to be under the water. Recut the stems underwater and place them immediately into a vase. This will help open up the stems and allow the water to flow up freely. And you want to use warm water instead of cool. Again, this just opens up the stems a little bit more for water movement. And it's a good idea to add a commercial floral preservative to the water just to keep them looking fresh. You want to keep your cut flowers in a cool location and avoid drafts that are going to cause excess drying, and especially keep them away from hot, warm drafts. And it's also a good idea to change the water every 2 days to keep it fresh. Don't just top it off, but go ahead and clean out the vase and put fresh water in each time. And you also want to keep your cut flowers away from fruit. Fruit releases a gas called ethylene that causes ripening, and that'll cause your cut flowers to deteriorate more quickly. There is a fact sheet that's more about commercial flower production, but it also has some really good tips on when to cut flowers. And that fact sheet is HLA 6426, the care and handling of cut flowers.